In this video, I want to talk about 4 reasons why you should be buying Apple stock right now. Now, the reason that I'm doing this video is because Apple is the largest and one of the most influential companies in the world. But in recent days, the stock has taken a bit of a hit as it's been in the middle of litigation with Epic Games, the creator of Fortnite. But for me, I look at these types of dips in a stock like Apple as buying opportunities to load up on more shares of one of the most successful companies in the history of the world. I don't want to spend too much time covering the court ruling with Epic Games, but it's definitely important. Now, the entire saga kicked off on August 13th of last year when Epic Games introduced an update to Fortnite on iOS and Android devices, which essentially gave players the option to purchase V-Bucks directly from Epic Games themselves instead of going through the App Store on iOS devices or instead of going through Google Play Store on Android devices. You see, whenever you purchase anything on either the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store, Apple and Google charge a 30% transaction fee. And when Epic allowed players to buy V-Bucks directly within the game, they were essentially circumventing this transaction fee and passing on the savings directly to the players. And as you can imagine, Apple responded incredibly quickly, and later that same day on August 13th, Apple delisted Fortnite from the App Store, and shortly after, Google followed Apple's move and delisted Fortnite from the Google Play Store. It was hardly a surprising move from Apple and Google because when you take away their source of revenue from one of the most popular games in the world, that just isn't going to fly. After Apple removed Epic from the App Store, Epic Games filed a lawsuit against Apple in the state of California, asserting that they would launch their own app storefront on iOS devices if it were not for Apple's strict policies. They stated that they felt obligated to charge more for V-Buck purchases on iOS devices due to Apple's transaction fees. Essentially, Epic's lawsuit is aimed at getting their own storefront on iOS devices separate from the App Store, which would in turn open up similar options for other developers. In a court ruling on September 10th, Apple essentially won the court battle, but there is a caveat attached. Now, the judge ordered Epic Games to pay Apple 30% of the $12.1 million in revenue it collected through the direct payment system that it introduced within Fortnite, but Apple will have to allow developers the ability to pay for things in apps should the client choose to do so. Interesting stuff, but now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about the 4 reasons that you should buy Apple stock. But before I jump into the next part of this video, if you could do me a favor and hit that subscribe button and hit that like button, it would be greatly appreciated. I'm almost at 500 subscribers and I'm looking to get to 1,000, and that will allow me to go live and cover events like Apple's event tomorrow in real time. But thank you all for the support, and with that, let's jump into the video. The first reason to buy Apple stock is simply because of their current and future products. Now, if you didn't know, Apple's California streaming event is tomorrow, and they are expected to unveil the new iPhone 13. Now, the iPhone 13 is expected to get incremental upgrades like a faster processor, improved camera, smaller notch, better display, longer battery life, and the feature that I'm most excited about, portrait video. It's no secret that the biggest driver of Apple's modern success is the iPhone. When it first came onto the scene in 2007, it completely revolutionized the world that we live in, and our lives from that point forward completely changed. And every year since 2007, there are millions of Apple devotees who can't wait for the latest and greatest iPhone, myself included. Now, from an investor standpoint, there is no doubt that the iPhone sales have slowed down in recent years. But that's not because they're not putting out an amazing product. It's simply due to the fact that users hold on to their handsets for longer periods of time between upgrades. At last year's event, when Apple unveiled the iPhone 12, investors were largely unimpressed, and Apple stock actually fell 2.7% on that day. It was actually Wall Street's worst reception ever to an iPhone launch, which caught a lot of people off guard because the iPhone 12 was largely considered a super cycle event because of the introduction of 5G. But tomorrow's event isn't about the iPhone alone, it's also about the unveiling of the new Apple Watch 7, AirPods 3, and potentially some new iPads, but that hasn't been confirmed. When I was putting data together for this video, I wanted to know how Apple stock performed around iPhone launches. Now, my intuition told me that Apple stock probably did fairly well around iPhone launches because investor sentiment is typically bullish. But to my surprise, it's actually a mixed bag. Now, over the last 16 major iPhone launch events, Apple stock has had 9 positive outcomes and 7 negative outcomes, so there really isn't a correlation that you can go off of. Apple has been extremely successful for the past 15 or 16 years, and over that period of time, their products just don't disappoint. Just when you think they can't get any better or work more seamlessly amongst each other, they do. And just when you think their computers can't get any faster, they go out and develop their own chips, as we've seen them do with the M1 processors that are lightning fast and very efficient. Since the emergence of the iPod in the early 2000s, Apple has continued to deliver year after year after year. And when you think of other companies that operate within the technology sector, whether it's Sony, HP, or Dell, or IBM, what Apple has been able to do and the length of time that they've been able to do it is truly remarkable, and I don't see this ending anytime in the near future. Pick an Apple product. I mean, I don't care which one you choose. It will work seamlessly within the ecosystem, and people are excited for them when they release, and people are extremely loyal to the brand. And if you ask me, I'm not seeing anything from a macroeconomic standpoint that tells me otherwise. So until I see the demise of Apple, as many people have been predicting for years, I'm going to remain bullish on the company. And I haven't even talked about Apple's future plans. Since the launch of the iPhone, people have been looking for Apple's next big thing. Yes, they've launched things like the AirPods and the Apple Watch, but what is going to be Apple's next iPod or their next iPhone? What is going to bring in that next round of growth and that next round of crazy revenue? Now, many predict that it could be a television set, others think it could be an automobile, and others think it could be a mixed reality device. Whatever that next big thing is, I think it will eventually happen, because whether it's a television set or an electric vehicle, Apple has gained the trust of millions of consumers around the world, and when they do make that next big thing, I have complete confidence that the product will be world-class and that it will be mass adopted, especially by those who are already in the ecosystem. That brings me to the second reason to own Apple stock: the ecosystem. If you use Apple products, you know that the ecosystem continues to get better and better and better over time. If you're like me and constantly switch between your iPhone, iPad, and Mac throughout the day, you will find that Apple's ecosystem is genuinely helpful and saves you a lot of time. Now, whether you're using AirDrop to transfer files, or whether you're using your Mac to take FaceTime calls or to respond to text messages, the ecosystem is one of Apple's greatest strengths. I didn't even realize how much I use the Apple ecosystem until I started doing research for this video. Now, when I make these YouTube videos, I frequently film from my iPhone, and these files can be anywhere from, several hundred megabytes up to several gigabytes. And when I need to transfer it to my computer, I don't need to connect any cords. I simply AirDrop it to my computer, and a file that is up to 2 or 3 gigabytes in size is transferred within a minute. If you don't use Apple products, it's really hard to explain how good the ecosystem really is. But when I use my AirPods, they instantly connect to whatever device I'm using. And very rarely do I have any technical errors or glitches. And when I use my Apple Watch, I can control my camera functions on my iPhone and use it essentially as a remote for my iPhone camera. And this ease of use, whether you're using an Apple TV or an Apple Pencil or things like your AirPods, is one of the reasons that Apple has been so successful. And perhaps the most underrated part about Apple products and their ecosystem is their ease of use, and that's why they are a favorite among baby boomers. They are just really easy to use. And as Apple releases an Apple Car or an Apple television or virtual reality headsets, this ecosystem will be the biggest seller of these potential products. People would rather buy an Apple Car over some legacy automaker, simply due to the fact that an Apple Car would hypothetically connect to your watch, it would connect to your phone, and it would connect to your computer. The ecosystem is one of Apple's biggest selling points and one of the reasons I'm bullish on Apple stock. The third reason that you should strongly consider buying Apple stock or holding on to it if you already have it is due to the fact that Apple has started making their own chips for their computers. Now, Apple has been doing this for years with their iPhones, but now they have been able to use this expertise and apply it to the MacBook Pro, the MacBook Air, an iMac, the iPads, and the Mac Mini. In my opinion, Apple's transition away from Intel chips is really, really underrated. The transition away from Intel chips is truly a competitive advantage. What makes M1 chips so unique is that they integrate several different components, including the CPU, the GPU, the RAM, among other things, into a unified architecture that brings incredible speed and efficiency into everyday computing. This means that a base MacBook Air with an M1 chip that costs roughly $1,000 has the ability to outperform an Intel-powered MacBook Pro that costs nearly 3 times as much. And eventually, Apple is going to transition all of their computers away from Intel and use their own proprietary architecture across all of their devices. And unless Intel and AMD can create a product that competes, I think a lot of Windows users, especially creatives, will switch over to a Mac. These chips run much cooler and in some cases don't even require an onboard fan. They are really, really efficient. As you can see in the new MacBook Airs and Pros, they get up to 20 hours of battery life. And now I'm not gonna get into the weeds on all the benefits of the M1, but as an Apple investor, I truly feel like this is a huge competitive advantage for Apple going into the future. And the best part is that this is their first stab at making their own chips and computers, and they completely hit it out of the ballpark. Imagine what they'll be able to do with the second and third iterations of the M1. The fourth reason that I'm long Apple stock is because of Apple TV Plus. Now, for those of you not familiar with what Apple TV Plus is, it's Apple's own video streaming service, which was released a couple of years ago to compete with the likes of Netflix, Disney Plus, Prime Video, and HBO Max. To date, many would argue that Apple TV Plus has underperformed because their share of the streaming industry is only at 4%, which is actually the same it was at the beginning of the year. But this lack of market share can be viewed as an opportunity because Apple is investing heavily into content, and content is what brings subscribers. Over the last year, Apple has launched over 47 originals that span a variety of different genres, including comedy, drama, action, documentaries, and shows for kids. And I can personally attest to Apple's quality shows. I mean, Ted Lasso and The Morning Show are absolutely incredible, and as they grow in popularity, will eventually bring more people to the platform, especially if they keep getting nominated for Emmys. Now, I'm not saying that Apple TV Plus is going to be the next Netflix, because Netflix just has too much good original content, but I do think that Apple TV Plus will continue to grow over the coming years as Apple continues to heavily invest in the segment. As of now, it's not a huge revenue driver, but I think that it can become a good source of revenue for Apple over the coming years. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for watching. My name is Ravi Wadan, and this is the Beat of Business. If you haven't already, please make sure to like this video, and please be sure to subscribe to my channel so I can hit my goal of 1,000 subscribers as soon as possible. You know, hitting 1,000 subscribers will allow me to go live, which in turn would allow me to cover events like tomorrow's Apple event in Cupertino. Anyways, thank you all for watching. I'll see you all next time.